Welcome back, peeps, to Perfect.dev, where we give you cats the freshest dose of dev snacks.
Now with your amazing hosts, Alex Patterson and Brittany Postma. This episode brought to you by Storyblok. Build anything and publish everywhere. Hello, welcome back, perfect peeps. How are you guys doing today?
Doing
Dropping
great.
the AJs already.
Dropping the AJs. Love it. I guess it is more fun with our overlay. We debated beforehand if we should do the overlay or not, but how can you go wrong?
Yes, right.
So we're talking all about developer events and community on CFE.dev today, and we had to bring on, of course, Brian Rinaldi. Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Brian. I work for LaunchDarkly, as you might have noticed, and as a developer experience engineer. I also have been running a lot of community and events for a long time, and CFE.dev is kind of my current focus, where I run meetups every couple of weeks. I also like in my coding time, I'm more of like a JavaScript and front end dev. It's kind of where I tend to focus my efforts. I also do a lot of Jamstack. Wrote the Jamstack book with Ray Camden. That's out recently as well. And yeah, I guess that kind of sums it up.
How did you get your start at LaunchDarkly? And so your developer experience there as well?
So developer experience engineer, it's like, it's like a DevRel position.
Yeah, that's my title too at Netlify.
And every company, every company is a little different about the way they handle it. So I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of LaunchDarkly until they reached out to me, and I started checking it out, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, and loved the interviews and everything. Now it's been a year, and I like the company. I love the product. So
You want to
essentially,
talk a
what
little bit about
LaunchDarkly,
what they do?
yeah, essentially what LaunchDarkly is if you've heard of feature flags, it's essentially feature flags as a service. Although that makes it sound really simple, it's actually way more complicated than that. What this allows you to do is basically you can wrap portions of code, and like that code only runs if this flag is true, or you can do even more complex things like progressive rollouts, user targeting. You can have different types of flags, like it doesn't have to be like a true false kind of thing. You can even send complex objects like JSON as a flag. You can do A/B tests. So it gets really complicated, but it's just feature flags as a service.
Very nice. So is CFE.dev then part of your position at LaunchDarkly, or did it spin off of some form of that, or how did you get into this like community side?
No, I'm grateful that the company supports me doing it, in the sense that they are not just like, okay, they're like, you're allowed to do it. They actively like support me putting time into it. But it started so in about, I think it's like 3 weeks officially, we'll hit 5 years from when I ran my first event. I was working for a different company at the time. And so I got started doing this because I ran my first conference about 15 years ago. It was an in-person conference and in Boston. And I kind of that started my love of running events. It's like I've run a lot of conferences, all different kinds of conferences, like small developer conferences that are more community things. I've run conferences, bigger conferences for work. I've run like more like company conferences, and I've done a lot of those kind of things, and I really enjoy it. Even though my wife would say like every time, and particularly when it was one of my own, it was like um, I'd stress about the ticket sales every single time.
Mhm.
And she's like, but it always turns out okay. And I'm like, you always freak out, but it always turns out okay. And I'm like, yeah, but does it turn out okay because I freaked out, or I don't know?
What do you do in that moment, like when you don't have enough ticket sales? I know a couple people going through this right now where they're stressed out and they're like, "Oh, we don't have enough ticket sales for this," and you freak out and then it's fine. But what
Yeah,
do you do?
it's usually fine. It's not always fine. so so
You put it on the credit card, right? You're good.
yeah. So it's honestly, there's not a lot of tricks. I mean, you just kind of, I would say every time I ran these events, I'd have to call in every favor I had with everybody I knew in the community, being like, bugging them, being like, hey, can you help me? You have this new, if you have a newsletter, can you add this to your newsletter? Can you post it on Twitter or other social? And the tricky part is you learn quickly that there's no quick fixes. So you had, that's why like I would freak out way
Yeah.
in advance, because it's like, okay, um, I need to kind of uh, fix this like a month and a half in advance, because like, especially for in-person events, if you wait, it's like, if somebody has to plan travel and all that other stuff, it's just a complicated thing. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of I wish I had a secret. I don't. Like I said, my secret is I freak out and start like just kind of doing everything I could
Start
possibly
pulling
think of.
favors and like
Yeah,
marketing your heart out and just getting the word out there. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess that's all you can do. I mean, I guess you can go and hand out tickets on the street if you just want butts in seats. But
Exactly. And I mean, I've done that where like we've just been like, okay, we're gonna have to give away as many tickets as we possibly can,
yeah.
because having people is more important than the ticket revenue at that point, So, because speakers don't want to speak to an empty room, and sponsors don't want to see an empty room, and so on. So, it's um, you know, I, this is kind of aside from CFE.dev, but like it's a tough business right now. Like it was always tough running events, even before COVID. And then
Hmm.
COVID hit and everything kind of blew up, and everybody had to kind of come up with inventive ways if that's their business of keeping events going. We were already virtual on CFE from 5 years ago, but so that didn't really affect us. It did in a little way, but I will maybe talk about that later. Um, and then now it's coming back. Like everybody's excited, like, oh, we're back to in-person events again. But it's it's not back the same as we know. Like still, COVID's still with us, number one. And I can tell you, I talked to a lot of event organizers and stuff, of like developer events, obviously, and they're still down somewhere of 40 to 50% on is about the average
Yep.
I talked to, like of what they're down in attendance. And it's a tricky business anyway, where like a little drop off in attendance, if you've committed, particularly on larger conferences, if you've committed to a venue and food and so on and so forth, like that could be the difference between making a little bit of money off of. So, and it's, I think that now with economic downturn and everything, some sponsors are crying poor, even ones who are definitely not poor. So,
I've gotten a lot of feedback like it's just our policy right now. We're not sponsoring stuff.
It's
I'm like,
just, yeah, like
really?
just
yeah,
Okay.
gonna put a hold on it. And I've heard like even people that can get people to meetups in person are having trouble finding venues because there's
yeah.
like a lot of bars closing, or like wherever they're doing their local meetups at is just difficult right now to find places.
Absolutely. I have that. So I also run the Orlando Devs community here well, I'm not in Orlando right now. I'm actually in a hotel. So, so that's why like it's kind of like, yeah. But but yeah, I run the Orlando Devs community, and we're like the largest developer community in Orlando. And I mean, we're like, it was big. I mean, it's still big. It's like, I think we're on Meetup, we're like 3,500, 4,000 people, and like on
Wow.
our Slack is about 4,000 people. Um, so it's a big group for Orlando.
Yeah.
And uh, and I struggle. That's actually my biggest struggle right now, has been finding consistent venues, because the places that were free are kind of less enthusiastic not post COVID, but post when everything shut down,
Yeah.
to host free events anymore. And so like it's a struggle to find places, and the places that charge, it's like, well, I have a little bit of budget, but I don't have a lot of budget, and I can't afford that. Um, so I'm just kind of, when you organize a meetup or whatever, it's part of it is, generally speaking, once I get a venue and things, it's like it takes a big part of that planning every month out of
Oh yeah.
out of the process. It's like I don't have to think about where it's going to be because I can just go
Mhm.
to the venue that I always go to. But now it's more like every month that I try and plan something, it's like I
You
got to
have to
figure
go
out
do
where the heck we're going
everything.
to do this, and that's a long, complicated process. So never mind getting a speaker and promotion and all the other stuff. It's like now I got to every time figure out like where can we host this.
That's
Um,
what I was gonna say. It's not even like just like you can't just go to a restaurant and be like, I have this many people. You have to have a place with like a screen that you can show all of the talks on and like a nice space and
And great Wi-Fi.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
that's
mean,
true. I didn't even think about that.
we've been struggling with the same up here in Grand Rapids, putting on the Google developer group, and we finally found someone that was like willing to actually open their doors for us for free for now. I told them we can give them kickback as soon as we can, but it's just really challenging with COVID. People don't want other people in their buildings, and like if they have to shut down and things like that. So,
Where are you doing that at, by the way?
um,
As
yeah,
an aside.
that is at the factory. The factory. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
drop the name on it.
Sorry, I'm pulling like the local stuff. But so it sounds like you are really into like doing these events in your free time. You just enjoy this as a thing. So,
yeah.
how did CFE come to be and why did you start doing like you do twice a month? Is that what you said? Every other week?
Yeah,
You do a
every other
meetup?
week. Yeah. So originally it wasn't. Originally it was just every month. And this again was like 5 years ago. So the story of CFE started with, so CFE technically stands for Certified Fresh Events. I've kind of like shortened it because the old domain name was super long. Um, anyway, so and it's not. I mean, it's events, and it's kind of like not really events. I always think of events being more in person. Um, but the original idea was I was going to run in person events.
Get
Um,
cool fleek events.
so I was gonna run these in-person events, and I wanted to get something going. So I was like, you know what? In the meantime, I'm gonna run virtual events leading up to an in-person event as a way of kind of building an audience and then having the in-person events. Because I was not actually a big believer in virtual events. I was like, I don't think they're that valuable. I don't think anyway. And then I started running them, and I will say, like, obviously I changed my mind because I'm still doing it 5 years later. Um, most people thought I was nuts, honestly, because like event sites and other stuff would not list anything virtual. It's like, no, this is not. We don't list that stuff. This was 5 years ago. That's changed. COVID
Well,
Mhm.
helped
yeah, they got
that
forced
to
into it, right?
yeah, exactly. Um, so I started running virtual stuff, and it was just like, okay, this is what am able to do right now. I didn't have the time, resources to get, or the money really to get like in-person events going, because in-person events a lot of upfront investment. So like, so yeah, my first one was like hugely successful. Like we had, I think that one I had like almost 300 people live at it.
Wow.
And then just kind of kept it going. Um, and started doing, I enjoyed it enough. Like I started doing more, and it's like, for me, I got into events because honestly, my first event was like literally my company would not pay for me to go to events. Like, well, you know what? I'll just bring them
I'll bring
here.
them to me.
Exactly. So so that's why I ran my first conference, but it's because I love like I'm at a conference right now, right? Like I love going and I love learning new things. I love like I'm not like so hyper focused on one thing. I want to know about all the things if I can, even
Hmm.
if like I love learning about something. I'm like, that is awesome. And even though I probably will never ever use it, but I liked knowing about it. Um, and so like that's kind of what events are for me. It's about sharing my love of learning new things and particularly technology and developer stuff. and I enjoy being part of like the developer community. It's been a huge part of my career. Obviously, that's partly why I got into DevRel. Um, so that's what drove me to kind of keep doing. And this ended up being a really fun way for me to do it, and to do something like every month and to give back to the community while also learning new things myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you all understand.
Yeah, I feel
I
like
was
I'm
going to
dating
say,
myself.
I feel like there's a crossover between us and CFE Dev where it's like we do this not just to like get content out there and do a podcast, but like the guests we have on have so much knowledge. Like you can never know everything, but it's so nice and we learn so much from having different people on. And
Mhm.
speaking about the virtual stuff, I feel like that makes it so much more accessible to people that can't travel. We talked about that a little bit. You can't
Or
afford to
who messed
travel or
up
you
their
don't
back.
feel safe. Do what?
Or who messed up their back.
Or people that messed up their back like Alex, unfortunately.
Ugh.
But yeah, I feel like it makes things more accessible to people, and even conferences that are in person now are trying to make things to where there's a virtual way to see it as well. And I think that's important as we're moving forward, not out of the pandemic, but through it.
We
Yeah.
do have to pause just 1 minute, but I've been
Oh
trying
yeah.
to do better about actually kind of sharing about the people and like asking one question. So um, definitely go check out Launch Darkly on Twitter. CFE_dev is where you can check out CFE Dev, and Brian is Remote Synth. So Remote SYNTH on Twitter. Before we jump to our sponsorship, I'm trying to ask this question from now on. What's your go-to stack that you like? What do you program with these days?
So I do, obviously it's JavaScript. I tend to do, um, I do a lot of Node. I've done a lot of Next.js. I think as a DevRel, I kind of like flip around technologies.
Yeah.
I did some SvelteKit and I really, really liked it. I don't know, Brittany, have you heard of SvelteKit?
Never.
No.
Never written that in my
Yeah,
life.
I'd say honestly, if I was making a choice of like what's the tools I like, or as another example, like Hugo is built in. I mean, sorry, CFE Dev's built in Hugo, right?
Oh wow. Yep.
So I do a lot with that nowadays. That's just been that way for ages.
Yeah.
If I were to choose what I could, like, let me pick the thing I want to do the most. I'd say it's I'm like kind of wavering between a little bit of like Astro and a little bit of SvelteKit. I
Nice.
think both of
Nice.
those like tend to be. What I love about them is that I feel like I'm doing more things that just JavaScript, as opposed to trying to like my. I don't hate React, but I always feel like I have to learn the React way to do this. Like I can even be like, I know how to do this in JavaScript, but do I know how to do that in React?
In React, like bingo
Yeah.
on the nose.
Yeah. So like both, I think Svelte and Astro, like when you're kind of doing their frameworky code, it is just JavaScript with a little syntactical sugar that allows you to do some
Nice.
of the things you need to do. So those would be the tools I'm kind of most fascinated with lately, as well as like doing a lot on serverless edge stuff.
Nice.
Oh,
So
nice.
Love
Real
it.
quick, before you do the sponsor, I want to say that Astro is nice because it doesn't ship JavaScript by default. You have to actually turn it on. I like that about it. And they have 1.0 coming up soon,
yeah,
August 9th, I heard. So,
yep.
all right, I'll let you do the sponsor reel. So,
Yeah, also huge shout out before we jump. Thanks, B1Mine. You are able to drop the heart cat heart AJ now. Thanks for the sponsorship. Subscribing. There's the word I'm looking for. Thanks for subscribing. And we're off to sponsorship.
We know that creating content can be a tedious balancing act. Developers want flexibility to make seamless digital experiences, while content teams need the tools to work independently. We make changes and are left to watch everything fall apart. We met our limits using plugin after plugin and waiting weeks for edits. All for this. We knew it was time to rebuild the blocks, Storyblok gives marketers creative control and use a visual editor to actually see what they're doing. And developers are no longer restrained to a set of technology. Storyblok has made it simple for each market with localization and personalization tools, and allows you to publish content on all channels and all devices. Truthfully, we all wanted the same thing: to deliver the right information to the right destination at the right time.
Thank you once again, Storyblok, for sponsoring us. Really appreciate it. Do want to remind everybody you can do the bang show commands. I hope that's
Oh,
right.
I can't do it because if I do it, then it will set all of them off, apparently.
There we go.
So,
So that'll show them all. We have Jamstack. Yes, perfect. One of my favorites is OMG. And hopefully everyone can see Brittany's
sorry,
OMG.
Brian is like, we haven't figured this part of it out. And I want to talk about CFE.dev and what you use for your tools, because we use StreamYard and we have this unique setup with OBS, and Alex has to log in with like a guest account as the overlay, and it's weird and it doesn't work very well. So what do you use on CFE.dev for tools behind the scenes?
Yeah, so when I started this, I adopted a tool called Crowdcast originally. The thing about Crowdcast that I liked at the time, and I still like, is
You
that,
developed it? Is that what you said?
huh?
You developed it?
Oh, no, 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 no. I
Okay.
chose, no, no.
It's
God,
like, you
no.
built this?
How much? I don't have this much time.
Okay.
No, so what I liked about it was that
Oh.
it had the ability to have like um, registrations, so I could kind of collect emails and stuff as people registered, but also the ability to, because I was running some paid events, and it had the ability to like integrate ticketing built in, which that was the tough part. I was like, well, how do I run these and then limit this to only people who paid? Right now, like, I haven't run actually paid events. I don't run any paid events like that this year. Even the conferences are all free. I used to run more like workshopy type things, and those were paid. So that aspect of it is probably less important to me. I do actually use RTMP from StreamYard to now stream into Crowdcast, because they're working on Crowdcast V2, but it's in beta. It's not out yet. But like, what I wanted to be able to do is some of like the overlays and other things that didn't allow within Crowdcast at the time. And I also use StreamYard to I kind of simultaneously broadcast to Crowdcast, YouTube, and my under like my neglected Twitch channel, but that nobody ever goes to. So most people still join on Crowdcast, because that's where the majority of the chat is and the Q&A and all that. But then I also use StreamYard to just go to YouTube, and we do get some viewership on YouTube as well. So yeah, nothing too complicated behind the scenes, to be honest.
Do you stream straight out to YouTube and then just leave it there, or do you like make a private?
Yeah, so that's a good question. What I do nowadays, because I do want to like kind of add some bumpers and edit the video down to remove like my little intro and some
Oh no.
actually the
Maybe
okay.
running into hotel interference.
Yeah, I think I hit
Oh.
hotel Wi-Fi issues. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, so you were to get back to your question. Hopefully I'm fine now, right? Everything good?
You're good.
Yeah, I think you're back now.
So in general, this hotel Wi-Fi has actually been pretty good considering.
Yeah.
So what I do is I just unlist it, because I don't want to have the edited version and then the unedited version both out there, because it ends up looking like duplicate content. So I just unlist the one, so that in case anybody had the URL for the old one, they still can go to it. But then I just unlist it and put the edited version up. So I usually every week I put the edited version of those out, or like usually the weekend after the event runs. We also have a podcast now, which Sean C. Davis hosts. So we broadcast that live, kind of like what you're doing here, but then I edit that down into a podcast. So those remain up, like the live video of the, because
Nice.
we live broadcast the recording of the podcast and then edit down and actually release
Just
that,
the audio
just the audio.
portion you released. Something nice.
Yep.
How much do you
Yeah.
charge for editing? Maybe I need to send our stuff over.
Oh God, I will admit I don't do a ton of editing on it. I just will remove like any kind of mistake, like anything that, like
How do you
like where
remember?
the Wi-Fi might drop out, kind of like if you're on
Do you
meeting.
watch the whole thing back to know that, or do you
Usually
remember?
there in the live, I don't actually run it, but I'm usually watching the live one. Or the other thing I do is like if you're looking at it in the audio, like editor that I'm using, like you can easily kind of look at the audio and find gaps where, like, okay, something dropped out for a little bit here and things, and I'll go there. I'll just kind
What
of
do you
learn to
use
identify
for
places.
that?
Huh?
What do you use for that tool?
Just actually, I'm using Camtasia, which is really not like a
Yep.
purely audio editing tool, but I use it because, well, to be honest, because work bought it from me, and that's I don't want to have to buy
Nice.
the software to do it. So they bought it for me for work stuff, and I'm able to use it for this as well.
I've heard Recut is really good at just taking out like the blank space and then editing like wherever you need with audio. So I'm just asking everyone like what they're using so we can figure
Yeah.
this out.
I was trying one called oh God, what was it called? Oh, Descript, I think it's called, or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Descript is really good too at transcribing, and then you can also edit with like, because it transcribes everything, and then you can go in and you can correct what it transcribed, and you can cut like little bits and pieces out of it, which is really cool. And if you train it for your voice, you can actually get it to replace words that you said, which is
Yeah.
creepy and really cool.
Yeah, so I've tried that. I have it. I have like the full version and everything, but like I struggled with it. I know they've been working like on improving because I felt like the editing capabilities were a little rough. I think the transcription was excellent. The ability to like say fix little words here and there worked actually pretty well. It was just the editing capabilities of stuff was a little more complicated for me. That I was just spent way too much time and then struggled getting it exported, and so I was like, okay, go back to
That's
Camtasia.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get back on topic. So earlier you were saying that you're more in the front end, you do JavaScript, like
Yeah.
Jamstack stuff, but
Yeah.
does CFE.dev have an area of focus for its topics? Do you just do Jamstack, or how broad are your
Yeah.
topics?
So no, there's not really a specific area. We being me, run. I run the Jam.dev. I've run for 2 years, which is a Jamstack virtual
Jamstack
conference that happens in January, and so that tends, so we have that obviously, and then I have the serverless event, more serverless, which comes in the fall. So those are kind of like Jamstacky, but there's not really a focus for CFE.dev. In the past, people have told like people like who were trying to help me find ways to kind of get sponsors and keep it afloat, right? They were like, well, if you had a tighter focus, I think it would help. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm interested in a lot of things. I don't just want to learn about Jamstack. I love Jamstack, but I want to learn about everything. Like for instance, next month we have a DevOps talk. It's like not really my area, but I do love to hear about it and learn about it. So like I don't want to limit that.
We had one on Flutter last week, and I was just like, I had no idea what was going on, but it looked fun. Alex had a lot of fun coding that.
Yeah, we made a Flappy Bird game out of it, so
That's good.
it was a good time.
But
I was
yeah,
supposed
it's
to
nice
be
to have the
talking about that last
bonus.
night at GDG, but the back thing, man, it's just killing me.
Yeah. So yeah, I really, I mean, some of our best talks have been on topics that I never would have imagined that would, like, I mean, if you go through and look, we have talks on almost everything. It tends to lean towards the front end and JavaScript and serverless and stuff because that's my area, and it tends to be where I know people. And but I try my best to reach out beyond that network and like get people who are outside of that to come and speak, who are areas that I know nothing about, which makes it really hard because I then, as you know, like, and you're like, okay, I gotta really pay attention to this presentation, and like so we can have a conversation about what they talked about afterwards. And I don't completely understand what they're talking about, but
Anthony is asking for a Web3 talk. He wants to
Anthony,
give
reach
more
out to
Web3
me.
talks.
So, but yeah, it's it's fun. Part of the fun about being a developer to me is like there's so much that I can learn. And
You had one today on GitHub Copilot, right? How did that
yeah,
go?
yeah, we hit just right before this. Yeah, we're talking about
Ye-
GitHub Copilot with Rizal Scarlett, and it was really cool because it was like her idea was that rather than, obviously GitHub Copilot can help you code, but it was more that how you can help it to kind of level up your career, right? So
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was an excellent present, which is recorded, so you can go back and
Yes, go back and watch it.
go back and watch it. Yeah. So
Very cool.
Speaking of like how to get talks and stuff, since Anthony was asking, so how do you get involved with CFE.dev? How would you give a talk or participate in events?
so to give a talk, I mean, it's really just about reaching out to me. I tend to pre-book these months out, so like right now I'm looking at talks in like probably late October at this point. But like, yeah, it's really since it's really I mean the whole behind the scenes, besides Sean who hosts the podcast, like behind the scenes, it's really just me. So I always give people my email, which is like Brian@CFE.dev. Just reach out to me and tell me what you want to talk about, or if there's topics you want to see but you don't want to talk, and that way I can kind of try and cater the content towards that. Being a participant is like everything's free. Like so it's not just the live events. Obviously we have the live events. You can just join via Crowdcast or go to the YouTube. But the other thing is it's been 5 years and I've been running this, well, originally every month, but I've run conferences that had tons of stuff. I ran workshops, like I had, whole day JavaScript hands-on workshop with like, you would recognize all the names of all the speakers. They were like, really, really experts in JavaScript. They did that a few years ago. Like, and so 5 years worth of content. I think I'm closing in on like 200 sessions that are all just there for free in the archive. You just go back and find the sessions that interest you. So you don't have to join the live stuff. You can also go back and just watch sessions in the archive.
And all of the old conferences and stuff too are all uploaded on there as well?
Yep. Everything I've ever put, it's
Wow.
all there. It's all free. So all the
How much
jam.dev.
cloud storage do you have?
Oh, no. I don't, so I don't
No
host.
disclosure.
Yeah. I used to put them on Vimeo. So a lot of the old ones are on Vimeo, and I'm trying to transition them over to YouTube. I
Yeah.
let YouTube host my stuff. Because yeah, that would be, I think I tried doing that stuff originally, and it was just, never mind I'd have to have my own video player and
Yep.
have the streaming of it. Oh God. Yeah. No.
It's just a nightmare. So yeah, just let YouTube handle it. I don't blame you at all.
Yeah. I mean, the Vimeo thing was nice because if you had a paid account, it didn't have ads and stuff like that. And you could even make it private if you wanted to. So like I could embed it, but you couldn't find it. That was the original idea because I wanted people to come to the site. Now I'm just like, if go see it wherever it is. I don't care where you find it, whether if it's on YouTube or it's on my site, as long as you get the chance to watch it. So yeah, but YouTube, the only negative about YouTube is that I don't have any control over what ads they show you. So that part I don't love, but I can't afford the cloud storage for
No,
5
it's
years
just
worth of
it's too
videos.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a crazy thing. So we talked a little bit about you learning or being in the Jamstack space, but how has that impacted your learning and growth in the ecosystem and like through time with all these networking and all these amazing people that you've been around? How has that like helped you grow as a developer?
Yeah, so I've been doing Jamstack stuff since like, I mean, we didn't call it Jamstack back then, but I started doing this
Well,
around
Jamstack's
2013.
changed, right?
Yeah. So it was 2013. I got into doing, I was I basically, for work, I had to build a site, content site. It was like a developer site. And it was all content. And I'm like trying to convince them. I had fallen in love with Jekyll, and I'm trying to convince them to use Jekyll. They didn't. They made me use WordPress, but which is fine. But that started my journey. Like a lot of things, as you might have noticed, I started running conferences because work wouldn't let me go to conferences. And so I started Jamstack because doing Jamstack stuff because work said, no, you have to use WordPress. So, it's kind of like, I'm always like, I'd say the lesson from my career is that when work tells you no, don't take it as a no, try and find it, and I've honestly grown a lot through kind of finding other ways of like, don't let the fact that work said no, kind of block you from doing the things you want to do and the things you're passionate about. So yeah, I just fell in love with doing Jekyll, and then kind of transitioned to doing a lot of Hugo. I did a lot of stuff back then. I met Matt and Chris of Netlify literally before Netlify launched, because they were at my talk about static site generators when I was speaking at an HTML5 meetup at the Google offices in San Francisco.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so like I've been doing this for a long, long time. I've now written kind of 2.5 books. I say a half because one of them was like a report for O'Reilly all about static site generators, and then wrote 2 books with Ray Camden about Jamstack. So yeah, so Jamstack has played a big part in my career. Mostly out of like, I'd say most of that time it was not a work focus. It was literally just a passion of mine, like something I
Just out of
enjoyed.
interest.
In a way, I really kind of liked building sites. It's what I like. It's the tools I like to use to build sites.
Completely understandable. Makes sense. Did you have something to say, Alex?
No, I'm just soaking it all in. I feel like Brian and I could be like talking in a mirror to each other right now. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Although I didn't meet anyone from Netlify early on, so you got me there.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny because they come up to me afterwards and they're like, "Oh, we want to tell you about this like tool we built," because literally my presentation at this HTML5 thing, I'm talking about like one of the struggles of these tools was deploying them, right? And I was showing like, well, this is like literally I had like little command line things that would help just basically FTP it. I don't know.
Oh.
We may have to explain what FTP is to some of the viewers.
File
Like,
transfer protocol, is that
but
We'd still have to explain it though.
I have done it one time.
Really? Oh my goodness.
One time. I'm a very new developer though, in terms of like this industry. Like 4.5 years is all
Oh,
that I've
Brett,
been
you're
doing it.
so
So
spoiled.
I came into the spoiled generation.
The tools we used to deal with were rough.
Oh my God, yeah. So literally this command line tool would just basically handle FTPing it for me because moving all the new like stuff was a pain.
Yeah.
And just so like I just one command and it deployed it. But there was other tools too, and it was not fun. And FTP is kind of, it works, but I can tell you like I remember the days when I accidentally dragged the whole site into the wrong folder and took the whole thing down.
Oh no.
Yep, been there. I
You
I was
know,
actually working with someone at Adobe, one of their like premier support people, and he was SSH'd in, and he wanted to move something, and he had to delete it, and he's like rm-rf/opt, and just I was like, why'd you do that?
yeah,
And he took down everything. I was just
everything.
like, oh my
That's crazy.
god.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
And of
did.
course, my company, I kept asking them for a redundant server, and they never stood anything up. So we were down for like 4 hours. It was great.
Yeah. Well, those were the days like when you were FTPing it, right? Like the part of the problem was that, yeah, I mean, that the site was out of sync as it was happening, right? Like, because
Mhm.
we didn't have like, oh, hey, it's deployed. We're gonna
Yeah,
push
there
the
was no
deploy here
CDN.
and then flip the switch and move it over to the,
Yeah.
put that one live, like kind of what we're all used to now. So as you were deploying it, you either took it down or the site was in this kind of like funky state where some stuff was updated, others weren't. Maybe that broke things. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was a ton of fun. Britt, did we hit all of your bullet points out here? Did we talk
Um,
about the jam stacked newsletter?
we haven't talked about the newsletter yet. We talked a little bit about the conferences and stuff. I was trying to get the books. Anthony was nice enough to link the FS Jam podcast where Brian and Raymond are
Mhm.
talking about writing the book, but I was trying to find the link to the book. Sorry, I'm
Oh, I
just
thought
a
But
little
it's on the
distracted.
I
Manning site.
actually put it in his perfect picks already. If you want to grab it.
Oh,
from-
nice. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the book?
Sure. Yeah. So the book, obviously, I said I wrote it with Ray Camden. I think what makes that book interesting is that most Jamstack books say they take a particular tool and then just say, okay, here's how to build something with this stack, like Gatsby plus some kind of CMS or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
um, or whatever, Next.js plus whatever. Um, we tried to kind of, one of the things I love about Jamstack personally is that it's not prescriptive. There are tons of tools, which makes it hard to get started in a way because it's like, where do I start? There are tons of tools.
Mhm.
Um, but that gives you a lot of choices. And so like if you learn it from a book that's just like, here's the stack, well, that's the stack you're going to end up using. And I think for us, it felt like we want to introduce you to a range of options and then allow you to choose. Obviously we have to limit that, but like the book covers 11, it covers Hugo, it covers Next.js, and actually I think in a little bit of Jekyll. But the idea being like, here are a bunch of different options. Some of them are very different. We're going to show you all those. And then we even cover like, how do you connect CMS to this? How do you do e-commerce? How do so we want to kind of give you the full range of tools, so that it's not like it's going to give you go maybe as in depth as a whole book that sticks to one stack, but it really gives you the full set of options, both in terms of like your static site generator, and a CMS and all the other tools, like, because obviously there's a lot of pieces in a Jamstack application, right?
Yeah, and it hopefully has a little bit more longevity if you do it that way too, where you're not focusing on one thing and do it this way. And that allows it to live a little bit longer. And I love that it said beyond static sites there. The Jamstack for me has always been about being able to grab those best in class pieces and pull them together. And having that choice is powerful, but like you said, it's also a little burdensome. So it's more about like finding what you enjoy and what language you want to write in, and then kind of refining that down to the framework. There's a new one every day. Like you don't have to learn them, but getting there for sure.
One's coming.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, as you're probably well aware, like they revised the definition of Jamstack yet again, which is fine. I think it's good that it's evolving. I think it needs to. But there is no, like, technically speaking, now it's not even, the pre-rendering is not even part of the definition at all.
No, it is not. They took that out on purpose.
Oh, I know,
So,
yeah. Yep.
Pretty
So,
soon
you know,
JavaScript's going to be out of there. APIs will be out of there.
Just so we have this on record, the new Jamstack definition is Jamstack is an architectural approach that decouples the web experience layer from data and business logic, improving flexibility, scalability, performance, and maintainability. So that decoupling.
Can you read the Mock Alliance one too, just so we can compare for a while?
Mock Alliance? What?
Never mind. There's
What
like
is that?
3 different architectures going around right now. I'm like, huh, you've
And
changed them
Mock
so
Alliance is
close
one?
now that I'm just
The
like,
Mock Alliance
okay.
presents and advocates, and it had a pop up for an open.
Brian and I have been doing this probably long enough where like the pendulum has swung like 7 different ways, where you've gone from like complete mainframe back out to distributed, back all calling all over the place, and then you've got it back all tightly integrated because that's faster, and then
oh
we're
yeah,
back to the edge now because edge
I
is
had not
faster,
heard
so
of
it's
this
just
one.
like
It's microservices based, API first, cloud native SaaS, and headless. That sounds like Jamstack.
right.
it is basically.
There's so many.
Netlify in the Mock Alliance. I thought Netlify was even in.
Yeah, they're part of it.
They may be. I had never heard of it as an architecture. That's
It's
an
just funny.
interesting.
There's so many of them that are so similar, and it's just like, okay, you can
Yeah.
change them to be whatever. We're talking about the same thing though.
Yeah,
We are.
that's the thing to me is like I even tell people I'm like I talk a lot about Jamstack, but like I don't think you don't have to go 100% like whatever we define Jamstack as. It's like take
Right.
the pieces that work for you and use them.
That's the
Or
key.
if you want, if you want to use whatever is Jamstack, I mean it's a very loose definition anyway. For part of your site, and then the rest is like something different. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You got at the end of the day, we're trying to build sites that work, right? So, and we're trying to build sites that work not just for whoever our employer is or whatever, like, but also for like the people who use it, that we give them a good experience. And it doesn't, as long as you're achieving those goals, like, I mean, it doesn't matter. I like the Jamstack. It works for me. And it obviously works for a lot of people, but this is not like dogmatic in any way.
Right.
I don't get into
Yes.
like these debates about like I think it's cool like server side rendering is part of the Jamstack, that's fine. I mean, I still personally prefer to pre-render as much as I can, but
I know we have Kenzie Dodds coming on, and like I am so interested in just digging into his brain because I'm like still torn about. I still feel like static is the way
You're gonna
go,
bring up a
and
hot topic.
oh, that's
yeah,
gonna be,
I know,
that's
I know. Like I gotta calm myself down and just like hear him out because it's tough for me. Like for years we were writing PHP and we were on a server and that was fast, and then we had to move it closer. So we went to the client, and then we put too much in the client, and so we had to back out of that, and then we made it static and brought static closer to the people on the CDN, and now it's like let's bring the full thing to the edge as close as possible. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Well,
Okay.
this is where like I feel like my career helped me in many ways. I would say when I was younger, I was more like I thought I knew the right way to do things, and I was like I could just kept researching, and I'm gonna figure out like this is the best way to build an application. But as you go through your career and like things change so much and technologies disappear, sometimes overnight, and it's like you realize I can't be dogmatic about this stuff because tomorrow I might be doing something completely different. And you also, as you mentioned, Alex, see that things change like so dramatic, and it's kind of like that pendulum swinging back and forth, as you mentioned, that like there were times when it was like we need to push everything to the client because the server's slow, then we need to push everything back to the server because the client's slow, and I've seen that happen repeatedly throughout my career. Even to a point, like I remember, I mean, people might find this insane, and it was kind of insane, but like there was a point when my database server could process things better than my web server, and definitely better than the client. So I pushed more stuff to the database server than so like things like SQL Server even allowed you to run like things code and stuff like that, which
Yep.
in retrospect was probably a terrible idea, but actually did make things run better. Like it was faster than the alternative, right? Because my web application server was kind of slow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
and
worked
so,
with a company. All procs were done inside their database, and like the web
yeah.
server is just feeding out. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. So like, we just that all that changes. And I think, I'm a this part of even like going back to the CFE dev. Like that's why I like learning about this stuff because I'm all about like the more you know, the better choices you can make.
Yep.
And I'm all about giving you all the options so you can hopefully make a good choice
Right.
that's the best for what you need to achieve, and whether that's the things that I use or something completely different. I don't care.
I think you said it right there, though. Like the great part about Jamstack or any of these kind of modalities is that you can actually say use the best thing for what you're trying to accomplish, and that's the key to it all, right there. So swap in and swap out the best of breed, and you're good to go. And sometimes it might just be your DX side. Like maybe you can get this MVP out the door because you have VC investors looking, and all I know is Next.js. Write that, and then later on go write it in something else. Like that'll work. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's different ways to look at it. I do want to give Anthony a shout out. He's always a huge member and whatever you want to call him. Anthony's all over the place all the time.
Supporter.
Yeah. I know
Supporter.
Anthony very well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's calling you out left and right. But he's doing a talk on composability.dev. So definitely check it out. I think it's tomorrow. Is that correct? I hope.
Or is it? It's
I think-
going on right now, isn't it?
I think his talk's tomorrow, I want to say.
Oh, his talk's tomorrow, he said
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
chat. Yes.
So definitely
His
check
talk.
that out if you get a chance. I think we're going to take this time to pivot on over to our perfect picks. And Brian's up first, and he has a doozy because
I
I'm
do.
really curious about it.
Oh yeah. So well, Brittany and I were talking about this earlier because this is what I'm doing like on this trip. I'm watching this show, and it's been okay. So I will preface this by saying I was never really a fan of the games. Like they're fine. I mean, I'm not like didn't dislike them. It just wasn't something I played all that much. I did watch the movies. They were meh. The show is actually good. Um, it's well acted. It's not. I wouldn't say it's particularly scary because it's more like a monster movie so far. I haven't finished it. So there's a lot of giant creatures, more than zombies, um, but yeah, I definitely recommend if you want something a little scary.
Yeah, and it is TVMA. I knew Alex was like coming up with that, but it is a little bit scary.
Yeah,
Yeah, we always try it
I
out.
mean, yeah, it
I'll
definitely
watch
it
it
definitely
for
has some scary elements, gory elements too.
Nice.
That's a pretty good watch.
We technically already did your other one. It was the Jamstack book. So definitely go purchase the Jamstack book that Brian wrote or helped write as well. Co-wrote.
Absolutely.
That's
Ray
the word I'm
helped
looking
me
for.
write it.
There we go. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry.
Yeah, I
Brittany.
definitely wanted to call out more serverless because it is coming up next month and it's put on by CFE.dev and looks like a great conference. Do you have the speakers on that? Go down a little bit.
So,
My coworker Salma is in there. Yep,
there
Colby
she is.
Fayok, Gift. Like there's so many good
Never
people
heard of any
talking.
of these people.
Ever in your life. Yeah. So many good people. It's going to be a good one. So go and sign up for that.
Yeah, that one's I mean, it's on CFE.dev. It's also like more serverless.com.
Nice. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
as
that.
you notice, like I like to have fun with these, like a little bit. Like the concept, the artwork concept
Or-
was I don't draw these things. I'm not capable of creating that. But I did send the artist guy who does this stuff for me. I'm like, this is what I want, and he nailed it. I think he
That's
nailed it. I
awesome.
love this one. I like have a store set up like because I want it on a T-shirt, and but I haven't quite finished setting up the store yet. It probably
That is
may not be
good.
ready in time, but
That would be a really good T-shirt.
it would
Yeah.
be good. Yeah. I need,
Awesome.
Jam.dev had great artwork too. I don't know.
Oh, it was so good. It was like that 80s style, like throwback.
Yeah. So the first Jam.dev, I was like, I want like 80s hip hop, And then,
Yes,
and then
neon
the
everything.
second one was like 80s it's like a Journey album cover or something.
I don't know what I did with it. I had a slap bracelet from Jamstack Conf last year. I was going to show a slap bracelet.
I haven't cut my wrist in years. That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, definitely it's going to be great, and it's like I said, as I mentioned, it's completely free. So like,
Yeah.
no harm in, if you want to sign up and you can attend the whole day or just the sessions you want, or but I do recommend being there like in person, because it's not just like recorded stuff. Like most of the speakers speak live. Even if they record their session, we have them come on afterwards for live Q&A. So so you get, one of the things I think virtual can do well is the ability to give people to ask questions to the speakers and get them answered directly. Like in person, that can often be awkward and people are leaving the room and blah, blah, blah. So this gives you like a way to just really ask these people the questions you want to ask them, get them answered live. So being there live has value.
And being in chat in the community too there is really good. I feel like in conferences, like these virtual conferences with their chat has stepped up their game.
Yep, for sure.
Sorry, I was laughing at Anthony, little puke emoji on the Journey comment.
Journey.
It wasn't because I like Journey music. It was just, I was like, there was a
You don't
style
like
of
Journey?
rock band, like, I don't dislike Journey, but like there was a style of album art that from back in the 80s, like rock band stuff, that I was going for. That's what I wanted. I don't know. Okay. Quick aside.
Oh, quick aside.
Yeah. So the reason I went for that is there's a silly little cartoon called Teen Titans Go. I love Teen Titans in general, but like, and even the old Teen Titans cartoon, Teen Titans Go, I really enjoy it, but it's like utterly silly and stupid, right? But they have an episode where they go, they get kind of sucked into this video, and it's in that style, and it's got this song that's actually like the show made popular, even though I guess it wasn't popular at the time it was released in the 80s. And it's so cheesy, where they're flying these things, like animals with wings, and like shooting rays out their eyes, and anyway, yeah, you look up, like, it's called the Night Begins to Shine, or something like that.
My kids love the show.
Yeah.
I haven't watched this in so long.
That's what, like, I thought that episode, and they have a number of episodes that like are in that style, and I'm like, oh, I want that.
Nice. Britt, what is your second pick?
Yeah, my second pick was just a shout out. I was on CFE.dev a couple months ago. I did Getting Started with the Svelte Framework. I'm using this as kind of the base of a talk I'm writing right now, so I'm kind of excited about that. And I did add one more, and I don't know if you saw it, because I kind of plugged more serverless so we could get that.
Must be
up there.
This one.
Yes. So Jamstack Conf is coming up in November, and I will be there. So make sure to go and get your ticket. I want to meet everyone.
I wish I could be there.
Oh, I know. It's like that time of year for some reason has got so many conferences. GitHub Universe is directly following it in San Francisco. Connect.tech is in Atlanta the same day as it. I feel like it's just a bad time, but
yeah, everybody's cramming their stuff in November.
Yeah.
We have ours that we haven't really even announced yet. Our company one is like has some overlap, and I just got accepted for Connect.tech. So it's like,
nice.
Yeah, which I had applied to before I even knew Jamstack conference dates. So I've never spoken at a Jamstack conference. Never.
I had a workshop accepted through them, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to be there. So if you want a pre-recorded one, I can do that. But we'll see what they say. I don't know. But
everybody is that week. And then
I know,
late November with reInvent and all that. And it's like,
yeah,
it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Cool. My first pick, I am always challenged. I missed something.
Gritty. No, it's named Gritty. I was like, Gritty.
I'm always challenged with the grid layout. I'm getting a lot better in Tailwind now because I don't know, mentally it just makes more sense to me. But This
Is it
allows you
because
to
I
kind of
used it all over the
dynamically,
place?
yeah, probably. Um, this allows you kind of dynamically pick different things, so you can understand like if I want this precisely 100 picks, you can set it to that, and then understand like what a frame actually is, and kind of just play around in here. There's a
Does
lot of these out here, but this one really like hit home for me.
FR
That was cool.
doesn't stand for frame, does it?
Oh, I always thought it was. I don't know.
I always think of it as free space. The FR unit, I'm trying to see what fractional unit is what it stands for.
Fractional. I always think of it as, yeah, I guess frame fraction. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
Cool.
I like that because
I do too.
I
It
actually
makes it
really
visual.
stink at doing that.
Using tailwinds is amazingly like it simplifies it for my brain at least, because you can do grid template and then you put it all in like an array and you go one frame, comma 200 picks, comma, and like boom, 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 I'm done. So it's
Now, see, I like
easier.
to use the min max
That
or
too, yeah.
RAM, repeat,
Yep.
auto fit, min max
And
is
I
like the
believe their
option.
defaults use that. They use like min max and then they do like 6 with 1 FR or something like that, which
They
see
do the
Brittany's
default
face, she
ones.
hates
Yep.
it.
It,
So I like that you can customize it. That's the best part about the just in time with Tailwind 3. So
yep.
I am terrible at CSS. Once upon a time I knew it back when it was simple. Then it just got beyond my capabilities. So
it's
I feel
always
like I
beyond
haven't
my,
gotten to do as much of it. And if you don't use it all the time and things are changing so often that it's a skill you have to keep up with, like everything else. But I
yeah,
haven't been doing as much CSS.
yeah. I think I did a lot of it, and I felt like I was competent back when literally CSS was first a thing, and I brought it into a couple companies that I was at, and I was like, we got to do this. Um, and I was good at it then, but it was very simple then. You couldn't do anything complex. I mean, you can't even do a rounded corner or a shadow or none of
oh,
that
it's
stuff. And then
amazing now. You can do
now
so
it's
much
like
stuff.
now it's just I have to have actual designer skills to do it, and I'm just like I don't have any of those.
I'm starting to get used to the has keyword and stuff like that. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
So this is another one of those CSS icons. I don't know if you guys have picked up on this. I'm constantly looking for free icons for some reason. I found this CSS.gg the other day. Thought it was pretty sweet. You can get all the SVGs, all the fun stuff you can imagine out of here. I often use this one, but this might, so this is iconshock.com. They have free icons and they have a search that you can go through.
There's a Tailwind one too.
Yeah, the Tailwind one doesn't have as much.
Okay.
I used to use that all the time, but now that I
What?
can like find all these other ones that search like, I don't know, book, it's like so quick to just grab them and I can grab any piece of them.
It looks a lot like Font Awesome used to look before it got all fancy.
Yeah, Font Awesome, it always bugged me like what's free, what isn't free, how do I
Yeah.
use it? And now like you can just boom, you're in Figma with this stuff, so you can open it
Oh,
directly in
nice.
Figma, which you guys probably don't want to see what's in there right now. But yeah, I think it was really cool. And so
What
I've
is
been
with the what's with the .gg domain names
I
lately?
don't know. What is up with that? They're
What does it
everywhere.
stand for?
They
Is it
cheat.
a so GG, is it a country code? Because the 2-letter ones I
That's
thought were
big, right?
country. Yeah.
The country code for
Oh,
Bailiwick, Guernsey.
can you spell that? What?
And I can put it in the chat. I don't think I could spell it. I don't even, you
Good
know me.
game. HH
Yeah,
is
it's just good game. That's
it's good game.
Bailiwick of
Bailiwick.
Guernsey. That's a good one. I don't know.
Interesting.
Okay, we're well past our allotted time, but Brian, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna be bugging you shortly, I hope, to close the loop on what was supposed to have been Launch Darkly and us doing a sponsorship together. So we'll chat afterwards. Get that figured out.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right, y'all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. Later.